If you're considering or entering into your first year of architecture school soon, this video is for you and it will definitely get you ahead of 99% of your peers. Architecture school is no joke. Long hours, brutal critiques, sleepless nights. It can break you if you are not prepared. But most first year students struggle for the same reasons. They make the same mistakes over and over and over again. I've seen it countless times, and trust me, I made them too. Hey everyone, welcome back to the jusjus channel. I think I just spit somewhere. My name is Justin Chong and I graduated from architecture school with an overall GPA of 3.9. Not 4.0 but close enough. Sorry mom and dad. So in this video, I'll share the 5 main mistakes that architecture students make and how you can avoid them. And if you're interested in more architectural school content, I would really appreciate it if you could hit the like button and subscribe. I share real, no BS insights to help you thrive in architecture school. And if you want to know the brutal reality of studying architecture, check out my video of the harsh truth about studying architecture. I'll link it in the description and at the end of this video. You ready? Let's go. Mistake number 1, and this is the most crucial mistake that I've seen a lot of people do, not reading the design brief properly. It might sound ridiculous, but this is actually true. One of the biggest mistakes that first year students make is not fully understanding the design brief before jumping into a project. I've seen so many students get excited about designing only to realize that they've missed out on key requirements, or worse, designing something that is completely off track. Don't be one of those students. Here's why this is a problem. The design brief tells you exactly what the client, or in this case your professor, expects from you when you present to them in the final presentation. From site constraints to building functions. If you don't follow it properly, you could end up redoing huge parts of the project, which will lead to you wasting a lot of time just scrambling and just figuring out your next steps. I've seen so many students rush into the main design software before understanding what's actually needed, and this led to a lot of unnecessary revisions within the project or just a final product that just feels so disconnected from everyone else in the class. And here's the thing, professors are quite savage, and I'll mention this a bit in a further point. If you do something wrong, they will call you out
in front of everybody.
And if you can't justify the design decisions based on the brief, you're in for a long day. You'll lose credibility in critiques. Here's how you can avoid this mistake. Read the brief at least twice before starting your design. Highlight key details, site conditions, spatial requirements, building functions, and constraints. Take notes when your lecturer is presenting. Like you could create a concept diagram, create a mind map that lets you connect your project with the design objectives. Just simple stuff. Don't do anything too complicated. And whilst you're designing throughout the semester, and make sure to always check back with the brief so that you're confident that you're always aligning with what was written in the first place. And do this consistently, because once you go off track once, it's really hard for you to pivot and redirect yourself to the correct path. Think of the design brief as your roadmap. If you don't follow it, you get lost. So always refer back to it and make sure your design decisions are backed by the design studio's requirements. Mistake number 2, poor time management, which will lead to all-nighters, which will lead to burnout. Look, I know architecture students wear sleepless nights like it's a badge of honor, but let me tell you right now, all-nighters do not make you a better designer. In fact, they make you work worse. First of all, your brain would stop functioning properly if you, for example, work 12 straight hours. I've done this before and it is not fun at all. You just wake up feeling absolutely horrible and you can't focus, and if it's your design crit the next day, that is just going to be a nightmare for you because you probably will fumble your words and not present the hard work that you've actually put a lot of effort into. Last minute work will usually result into you missing a lot of the key essential parts of the project, which will lead to a lot of sloppy details and resulting in lower grades. I remember being so fixated on rendering out a beautiful visual for a design studio that I was a part of that it actually resulted in me forgetting to do the floor plans. So I actually did not complete the design brief and got a subpar mark for the entire studio. Not worth it. And finally, as I've mentioned before, burnout is real and it's not sustainable for 5+ years of school. You start out strong, but you gradually just slowly lose the love for the profession, and I don't want that to happen to you. Now here's how I would recommend fixing bad time management. Number 1, just set mini deadlines at each stage. Whether it's for research, sketches, renders, or just design in general, always have little benchmarks, or you can use timers and work in periodic sprints. You can try the Pomodoro technique. I saw a lot of these videos pop up in my YouTube feed during COVID, and they've really helped me stay focused because it just felt like there was someone else doing work with me and I never really felt alone. The Pomodoro technique is essentially 45 minutes of work, 10 minutes of rest, and just keep rinsing and repeating, and the next thing you know, you've got a lot done because you are taking these periodic breaks. I would also recommend getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep before your final crit. Trust me, your presentation will be better, and I'm gonna be honest, you won't get 8 hours years because most of us won't have that luxury. So realistically, 4 to 5 is still pretty good. And here's a pro tip. Your tutors will know if you've done something last minute. Mistake number 3, focusing too much on design software and neglecting design thinking. I get it. Learning softwares like Rhino, Revit, or even SketchUp might feel like it's the most important thing when you're in architecture school. You see the upper year students working on complex design models and using parametric softwares like Grasshopper, Houdini, and you just think to yourself,
I want to do that, and if I master these programs, I'm going to be ahead of everyone else.
But here's the mistake. Many first year students focus too much on the software itself that they completely overlook design thinking. And that's a big no-no. The reason why this is a problem is because software is only a tool. It doesn't actually make you become a better designer. So learning all of these softwares is indeed important, but these tools can't replace creativity, problem solving, and in general just spatial awareness. I remember when I was in my first year and I was really interested in Grasshopper, so I started looking at how I can make the most complex facade designs using all of these funky other softwares like ZBrush, or even using like LiDAR scanning, blah blah blah, only to realize that, wait a minute, I'm not even actually designing architecture, I'm just making a big blob and just trying to justify it as architecture. And the lecturer caught on to that, and in the end, it didn't really end so well. And to be honest, relying on softwares a lot can also limit your creativity when you're designing your building. If you jump straight into software without exploring what you want to create on Pinterest, or even just like basic hand sketching, for example, you might get stuck in the limitations of the program instead of pushing creative boundaries. And overall, professors really just care more about your ideas and the actual renders of your building. So typically in first year, professors don't really expect a perfect 3D model. They more so want to see how you can think about space, function, and form. If your project is visually impressive but it lacks the design foundations of everything, professors will catch on to that and they will still give you a bad grade. It won't perform well in critics. So here are a few ways on how you can fix this issue. Start with sketches and physical models before you jump into the 3D modeling space. Even rough, messy sketches can help you explore design possibilities faster than software. Or you can try out physical models where it can give you a great understanding of scale, space, and just how a person would navigate through a room from a top-down perspective. Does that make sense? You should also focus a lot on the user experience, not just how things look. So ask yourself, how do people move around the space? Is it functional? How does it react to its environment? What is the facade cladding that you're thinking, and how you can push the boundaries between the inside and the outside? These are all like little things that you can think about. And yes, aesthetics matter, but a beautifully rendered building will still not be successful architecture if it is a bad design. And honestly, try to develop multiple ideas instead of sticking to one. Experiment a little bit more, because you would have time, but it's up to you to be willing to want to try different things. So don't lock yourself into the first thing that you model in Revit. Try out different concepts before refining your design. So focus on your ideas first. The software can come later. Pro tip on softwares: if you ever have any questions, just ask your seniors. Don't be timid and always be a bit thick-skinned when you walk around your architecture faculty, because honestly, they'll be more than willing to help because they've probably been in that same situation before. I hope they help you. Mistake number 4, not asking for feedback early enough. I'm gonna tell you a little secret. One of the worst things you can do in architecture school is to work in silence for weeks, only to get to your final critic and hear the words, "This is not a successful project." That moment is crushing. I've been there before. Especially when you realize that if you have just gotten feedback earlier, you could have fixed it. Let's be real, architecture critics can be brutal. No one likes to hear that their work has major flaws. But remember, professors and critics are not here to attack you. They're actually paid to be in university to help you become a better designer. Here's just a little funny story. I remember when I was back in maybe my second year of university, and I was in this design studio with a very intimidating studio teacher. We never really got along, and I always felt like she had something against me. And even up to my mid-semester crit, I got completely roasted by her and I just completely broke down. And I just couldn't understand why, because I felt like I didn't do anything wrong, and I just felt like she was always not satisfied with what I've done. And then I think right after the mid-semester crit, I actually sent her an email, and I just wanted to really get the answer. I was just telling her like, oh, why are you doing this to me? Am I really not that good? Am I really such a failure in your eyes? This was what she told me.
I see a lot of potential in you, and I really want to push you to be able to reach that level that you deserve to be at. So I really want to make sure that you really try your best.
And after hearing those words, it really just completely changed my perspective of the entire design studio. Not only did I not work hard, I actually worked even harder just to make sure that I can be at the level that she saw me to be. But in that exact same studio, I also saw other students that never showed up to her design workshops and only show up during the mid-semester and the final studio crits. This resulted in them coming in with a lot of work, but in the end realizing that the design does not meet any of the requirements in the studio brief, and they got a below average mark. And in the end, I got a pretty decent mark for my final crit. Many students make the mistake of showing their work to the professor when it is nearly done, but by then it's already too late to make meaningful changes. You've already invested so many hours, even days maybe, into something that might be fundamentally flawed. And a lot of people that I see as well overestimate how much they can fix in the last minute. If you're the kind of person that thinks, ooh, I'll just pull in all-nighter before the deadline and then can fix everything. No, you're in for a huge surprise if you're in architecture school. When you're running on no sleep, you won't have time to rethink your concept properly. You'll be rushing to patch up the mistakes, and no amount of coffee or Red Bull is going to fix that. And then it just results in a domino effect where you did not finish the project as well as you would have liked. And then the teacher will roast you, and you can't justify the design during a presentation because you have no energy, and then you fumble all of your words, and C-. Here's how you can avoid this mistake. Show your professor early drafts, even if it's just rough sketches. Especially at the early start of the semester, during the idea stage, initial sketches can help you identify problems before you spend hours on it. Professors appreciate students who seek feedback proactively. It shows that you're taking your work seriously and that you want to be involved in the actual class. You should also really get feedback from your classmates. They'll notice things that you won't from a third person's perspective. Sometimes, honestly, your peers can be just as helpful as your professors. Your university days are the best times to make genuine friends, create study groups so that you guys can laugh, cry, and stay up all night together doing work. Ask a friend to review your floor plan and be open to constructive feedback. One thing I've noticed from architecture school is that if you keep everything to yourself and not want to share, you will not go far, not just in university, but also in life, because people are what makes the world operate. You will always need to interact and be around people. So just take this as an opportunity to create meaningful friendships, but also help people along the way. You never know when there comes a day when you need help yourself. Everybody needs help. And also just don't take critics personally because it's about improving. It's not about you. Feedback is not a personalized attack. Even the best architects receive feedback and criticism. The faster you embrace feedback, the faster you grow as a designer. You're not perfect, but feedback can always get you closer to it. And mistake number 5, rushing into the workforce too soon. With an asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, and asterisk. I'll explain that a little bit more. A lot of architecture students feel pressured to start work once they start a university, thinking it's the only way to stay ahead. And whilst work experience is important, jumping into the workforce too early, before you are ready, can actually do more harm than good. The asterisk is because not everyone has the privilege to not work and study at the same time, as maybe some people have parental financial help. Like me, honestly, I'm really blessed to not need to work whilst in university. I do have friends who had to sustain themselves financially while studying in architecture school, and I completely understand that it's not an easy route and that they had to make ends meet. And first of all, I respect all of you so much for doing that. It is absolutely incredible to see how you were able to balance work and study at the same time. That's to you. This point might not be relevant to you, but do keep watching because there could be a few useful pointers. Here's why this is a mistake. Balancing work and uni might lead to severe burnout. Architecture school is already mentally and physically exhausting. Adding a part-time job or internship on top of your amount of deadlines, studio work and projects can lead to a lot of stress and lower quality work. Instead of learning and improving, you might find yourself just trying to survive. I remember speaking to my mentor back in the day, and he said that the best years of shaping your creative mindset and understanding yourself as an architect are during your university days, when you can explore and test out different design methodologies. And then you also have the next 30 or 40 years of your life to understand how to actually build a building from the ground up. That sounds kind of sad, but it is really true. So cherish your university days. It really is the best years of your creative life. I've been working for 3 years now, and I honestly miss university. Not the late nights though. None of that. Other than that, starting too early without any skills can also be very frustrating. If you don't have a solid foundation in design, software, and technical skills, your first internship might not be that beneficial. Many early stage interns that I know end up doing basic drafting or a lot of presentation packs for clients instead of meaningful design work, which can feel quite discouraging. Not gonna lie. And anyways, your portfolio and design abilities matter more than how early you start working. From my experience, employers care more about the quality of your portfolio than whether whether you started working when you're still in university. If you rushed into a job before developing strong design thinking and technical skills, your portfolio may suffer, which could hurt your job prospects later. It's not to say that you can't work and study, it's just this is what I've experienced. Now here's what to do instead. Prioritize learning first. So whilst you're in university, master design principles, master your softwares and conceptual thinking before diving straight into a job. A strong skill set will help you contribute from a skill perspective. When you do start work, if you want hands-on experience, you can try architectural competitions. A lot of my friends did that. I didn't because I was too lazy, or I can just give the excuse because I didn't have time. Honestly, I just couldn't be bothered. You can do like freelance projects or even like group design work together. These experiences will give you practical skills without the pressure of a formal 9 to 5 because the commitment is significantly less. You could also consider networking and attending architectural events that are around the area that you live in. So go to lectures, exhibitions. I know here in Melbourne, we have a lot of these events happening. Like we have open house where you can actually go to the buildings and the architects will actually explain what the design thinking behind it was, and then you can build relationships from there. These can all open doors to future work opportunities if you have the right mindset and you have the right character to build relationships with these people. Lastly, you could also consider short internships during the semester break. So instead of overloading yourself during the semester, you can look for summer or winter internships rather than going home so that you can fully focus on gaining that experience without the pressure of doing well in university. This allows you to gain real-world skills without compromising on your coursework. So I was blessed enough to be a part of one of these during my final years of my bachelor's degree, and it truly shifted and opened my perspective to what working in an architectural practice really is, and I just can't be grateful enough for having that opportunity many years ago. Because just remember, architecture is a marathon, not a sprint. So focus on building a solid foundation first, and the right opportunities will come. Alright, if you already made it this far, you're already ahead of most first year students. Avoid these mistakes and you not only survive architecture school, but you might actually enjoy it. No promises. Drop a comment down below. What was the biggest struggle in architecture school? Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and watch this video here talking about the harsh truths about studying architecture. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.